Well, hello, wonderful people. First things first, I've actually unmuted myself for a change. Look, it's wonderful to have you all on board here at Political Playback. And of course, it's even more fabulous tonight because we have the wonderful Tanya Unkovich along. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Simon. It's my pleasure to be here.
I suspect we're going to have the antithesis of the Bring Back Bob hashtag here. I think people are
Yes.
going to say, hey, what an improvement. In fact, get rid of Simon and Bob, just have Tanya along. Look,
He'll probably start it. He's probably somewhere at an airport going.
So just for our viewers to know, look, first and foremost, welcome to Political Playback. It's where we chew the fat, if you will, over the political happenings in New Zealand over the last week. Bob is currently in the United States. He's actually attending the Social Conservative Policy Conference, which I don't know about you, Tanya, I find that an absolute mouthful to say.
It is a mouthful, yes.
It is. But we're really grateful that Tanya has come on board. Look, there's a lot of that to discuss tonight. And I just want to say first and foremost that if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, if you're on the Family First Facebook page or Family First YouTube channel, you can send your comments direct to us here in the studio, and I can then put them up on screen if I get the chance. And as I say, any comments on thoughts on what Tanya and I are discussing, or if you have any questions yourself about what we're discussing or other things happening politically, let us know. And just to show you that the system works, we've got Harrison here. Harrison, I know Tanya because he went to my wife's school, and he's already up to speed before we started. He knew you were coming on. Catherine, lovely to have you here. Trish, thank you for logging on, and of course welcoming you as well, Tanya. Dee Dee is saying hello. We've got Rosie saying g'day. Rebecca's saying hello. We've got people everywhere. So look, lovely to have you all on board, guys. Tanya, as I say, there's an enormous amount to discuss, but there's a little bit of breaking news in at least two areas. One is, as I'm trying to find the right switches here, because I've got so many screens, it is just not funny, is a big change around Sports New Zealand transgender guidelines. This only came out, gosh, not even 24 hours ago. Do you want to just talk people through what's happened?
Well, this actually was supposed to be embargoed until 5 a.m. this morning, but it was quietly leaked, wasn't it? So we all found out about this last night, and it is about updating and actually removing some of the guidelines of transgender participants in community sports, community level. So this is something that's been spoken about for a long time. It was an election conversation, one might say, and it has actually been in the pipeline for a really long time. So it has finally happened.
There we go. I always have myself muted. So, I mean, is this quite a significant change from what you know, or, you know, maybe put it a different, why is this change needed? What's been the catalyst for this?
Well, you know, leading up to the election, I can share a couple of stories. Let me find them. I did bring them up just so that people can hear some of the reasons why this has come about. We heard from a lot of stakeholders and a lot of individuals. It's not an anti this person or anti that at all. It's real life stories of mothers and families saying this is what's going on at the community level in sports. Something needs to change. So, for an example, a woman and a sexual abuse survivor who left the sport that she loved because she was feeling unsafe. There was an aggressive man who self-identified into the sport. However, when he left the sport, he would go back and re-identify as a man in every other area of his life. So there's an example of something happening that is not okay. And of course, people were getting injured and they weren't feeling safe. So this is one of the things that needed to be looked at. How fair is it? How safe is it?
Look, it makes a lot of sense to me, which won't surprise anyone. I think we can respect people who have various identities. People are allowed to believe whatever they want, to be honest. But from my point of view, that we shouldn't be forced as others to accept that. We can respect it. We don't have to accept it. And particularly into the sports arena, you know what? Actually, fairness for me trumps what others might talk about as inclusion. At the end of the day, men and women's sports does not make sense. And I was just thinking of one simple example from my side. I want to stress this was actually for under 10-year-olds. So the issue is not about trans per se, because often in younger people's sports, there's a blend of boys and girls. But what struck me, there was a boy in the netball team. And lovely young men. All of the team were lovely. But long and short, it was clear as a boy, he was faster, stronger, taller, fitter on all regards, and was out playing the girls. And look, again, they're young. It's not about that team, but it was just illustrative for me, at least, Tanya, of what happens as they get older. There's just a major difference.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize is that community sports is actually the pathway, the gateway to ultimately being an Olympian. So you don't want to be put off at that early stage. So whilst it isn't the elite area, this is the pathway, and that needs to be considered. And it is about protecting the women's category. That is a big part of this. So certain things aren't being spoken about too much openly, and I just wanted to stress that it's about protecting the women's category, not excluding anyone. Look, everyone needs to be encouraged to move their body. That's part of wellness. So we need to continue to do that, but to do it fairly and safely.
And says me to you, a lot of women are calling out for this. There's a number of people, yourself, I know, Roe Edge, Annie O'Brien. There's a whole list of people that we could discuss as saying, actually, women are allowed their spaces. So this is a bit of common sense. And as I understand it, it's come through a coalition agreement. I think New Zealand First was the ones who have been pushing this. It's finally come on through. So it'll be interesting to see if it holds. I thought, before we jump to the next topic, I just thought this was a lovely little bit of feedback coming from Brenda about you. So sad that you left Parliament. Talking about you, Tanya, not me. You were the only one who spoke up for the vax injured. You were a brave, wonderful woman. So I thought I'd just quickly share that.
Just know that I'm still going to be speaking up for everyone. Just because I'm not in that big building behind me doesn't mean that I'm going to be quiet. I'm going. One of the greatest things for me is helping people out of suffering, and I'm going to continue to do that. So rest assured, I haven't gone away.
Well, I think it's symbolic that you're on the show. I know you were on Straight Talk. I saw you were on Radio Rima recently. You're continuing to have your voice out there, which is marvellous. Just before we move on to the next topic, hello to Muddy Waters. I can see we've also got Gardner Gone, while they're all saying welcome to you. And Maya has a great comment on what we've just saying here. It's fantastic to hear that fairness and safety has finally been upheld. I think the only nuance I'd quickly add to that for Maya's benefit is the guidelines have gone, and now it's up to each individual sport to make their decision. Yeah. Can I make one more point as well? There was a poll, it was Courier Market Research, and allow biological males, 13% said yes, 54% said no, and 34% were unsure. Now, that has changed dramatically over the last year or two. So people's views are really changing on this topic. It's just not a political thing. It's a people thing. It is. And I think the ground is shifting. I think, is it in the United States? Leah Thomas, he's the guy who was in the women's swimming. I think, was it Riley Gaines was the woman who lost her spot? Long and short, the universities apologise for everything that's happening. So there is that culture shift. Speaking of shifting, it's only literally happened in the last hour or so, and Tanya and I were very quickly talking about this before we came online. The government is changing some of our voting laws. So they obviously have to pass some legislation, and there's at least 5 points there. Or is it 6? I can't count. I'll leave it to you. You're the business and commerce person,
I'm the numbers
Tanya.
girl.
Yeah, here you are. So, what are some of these changes which the government are suggesting, and any thoughts on some of them?
Well, I love the fact that you've got to be enrolled prior to election day, because I am sure that is going to free up resources for people who are just doing the balloting rather than having to fill out the whole enrolment form. And I don't know whether you need ID here or not. I'm sure you must. So it's going to free up a lot of resources on the day, a lot of errors. It'll probably bring more people out to vote on their own, because they're going to think, well, it's not going to take me long just to go and do the vote. At least I don't have to pre-enroll and all that sort of thing, So I feel it's a good thing to have made this change.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, for people to understand, at the moment, you can actually just walk into the voting booth on voting day, slow everything down by having to fill out all the forms to say who you are, and then go and vote. And one of the issues, and it's it often came from the likes of the National Party, and not exclusively, I better say, but there was a concern that people were literally being bussed into polling booths and being signed up on the day and pushing their votes through, and it didn't feel particularly democratic. The other is, it slows down the final count because everyone who signs up on the day is a special vote, and the more special votes there are. And I used to work at one election, I think it was 1996, Tanya. I was actually working for the Electoral Commission in Whangarei, and I remember just how slow it is because actually the system's good. It's trying to verify. And I can see too, so I think that's a good move by the government, and anyone who's undoubtful, I'm sure you can get sorted. One of the things I notice here, they're wanting to enable greater use of digital communication to actually assist people to sign up. So it looks like they're going to make signing up to the electoral roll even easier.
So long as you can verify and not duplicate it, do you know what I mean? So long as the system is really tight to stop any errors. That's my only concern there. How many years before they get the system really tight? So I would like to see that really spot on before it's used.
Agreed. I see Murray here says, so the dead won't be able to vote anymore. So yeah, we have a few wits on the show, but hopefully not. And I see they're going to reinstate a ban on prisoner voting. I'll just say from my side, I actually disagree with this. I used to argue against it in caucus. And I've disagreed with Bob on this as well. I'm a great believer that we are allowed to vote for the system that incarcerates us. And I don't know why I'm using a collective pronoun there as if I'm going to go to prison, but
I can't see you being there at all.
Hey, as we move from voting, we had a poll recently. It was done by Talbot Mills. So that's actually Labour's polling people, as I just find this little thing to appear at the bottom. So another poll has come out. As I say, Talbot Mills runs the polls for Labour, and it was, in inverted commas, leaked. But according to this, Tanya, National's just slightly behind Labour. But when you combine it all together, and I'll go back to the other one, but there are the numbers for people. So Labour's ahead, National's behind. You can see Greens have gone up, ACT has gone down, New Zealand First has held. Long and short, it's neck and neck. And it's actually a small possibility the left bloc could win. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, why is there so much volatility in the polls between the left and right?
Look, this is what I'm hearing on the street. People are a little bit discouraged with the left and the right, the blues and the reds. So they are defaulting to one of the smaller parties. That's what people are telling me. So I think there needs to be a little bit more certainty with the two main parties on who they are and what they stand for, and be a bit tougher and stronger with that. So that's what I'm hearing out there. But you're right, it's very close. And there is a little bit of undecided there, isn't there? Not that much, about 4% I saw, something like that. But, that something like that could just tip the scale because there are a lot of people that are still undecided.
There are. And I think, I don't know, is there a winter component to this as well? I know going back to my political days, if it's cold and wet and miserable, people aren't so happy. So they tend to be more, I don't know, negative about life. Do you think there's any merit in that wives' tale?
Well, yes, but I think they're even a bit more miserable when there's more month left at the end of the pay packet. Is that how you say it? Yeah. When their pockets are empty, they're even a little bit more upset. So I think that's got a factor in, not just winter. I think everyone's feeling the pinch at the moment. I'm really hearing that.
We're seeing in the polls as well. In fact, we'll come more to the pinch. We'll be talking about inflation and the price of butter soon here on Political Playback. The price of butter. But no,
that's very
the price of butter. Well, I must admit, before we get to the price of butter, my wife, Rachel, made a legitimate raid on Costco the other day, so we've got our butter supply. But preferred PM, you can see at the top there, Luxon and Hipkins neck and neck, and then down below the preferred PM, it looks to me like Winston's still got a legacy, having been the deputy, and people are still warming to Seymour. But, I mean, what do you make of Luxon and Hipkins being neck and neck? I mean, is there anything to read into that?
Uh, well, look, what I said before, I think what people want is a leader with certainty, someone who they feel is going to lead them out of this bit of dark hole that we're in. And at the moment, neither of them is really showing that little bit of X factor that people are looking for. I think that's could be what's going on. So people are just going, oh, ho hum, and just stick with what is,
I think so. I mean, look, if I had to be simple about it, neither Hipkins or Luxon are setting the world on fire. So maybe that just the fact that it's neck and neck at this point is just showing people's general dissatisfaction. I wasn't interestingly able to find further numbers. It's always interesting to see who else is on the list
really?
of potential leaders, but I couldn't. Maybe it was a failure on my part. I couldn't find it. But
Got it.
you'll know yourself, obviously, both of us having been in Parliament. I always think these sort of numbers are more important, or MPs look at this a little bit more closely. Just want to talk our viewers through what this is saying and why, arguably, it's more important to the members of Parliament.
Well, it is because this is what people are actually feeling. And what you're feeling is what's going to determine how you vote and who you vote for. So if they're feeling negative, that 76% think that the economy was not so good or poor. That's 76%. That's 3/4 of the people who were asked. That is a lot. So I'd be really concerned about that. That is the mood that you need to shift. And 23% considered it good. Good's not enough. Good isn't enough. It needs to be great. People need to have that confidence and certainty that the people who have been voted in are going to make the changes that they promised. So 37% thought it could get worse. Well, that's pretty high too, you see. So they're not feeling optimistic. And that's probably why the leaders are neck and neck there. People are going, I don't know who's going to fix this.
I think so. Just a quick shout out to Kevin, who's promised to come and visit me if I end up in prison. Thank you.
No, I will too. That'll be two. Yeah, that's very good. And Rachel, 3.
And Rachel, hopefully. Yeah, I think I've said it before here on Political Playback, and it's good to have another MP or former MP reinforce it. These are the numbers that make people more nervous. You know, polls go up and down. In fact, the next slide will show that. But when people are dissatisfied with the economy, when they're feeling a bit glum, it's sort of the stuff that facilitates change. So it makes MPs very nervous.
And it should be a signal for them. I mean, one of the questions you said, should the government be worried? I always like to think, look, don't worry until you've got something to worry about. But there is something slightly here to worry about. But do something about it. Don't just talk. Actually, take some action. And that's what people are waiting for.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been my encouragement to colleagues now in the background is, look, you've got the mandate, get on with it. And my own take as well, my own take is actually there's a desire out there in the public for real action, dramatic action. You see that in other jurisdictions around the world. It's been welcomed.
Yes. Yeah, people are getting a bit tired of ho-hum and mediocre. They lift up that standard. That's what we're waiting for.
Hayden nails it, I think, though, and this is where everyone needs to keep their calm. He says opinion polls are rubbish, and the only poll that matters is on election night, which is quite true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how well people can see this, but it's clearly up and down for Labour and National. Obviously, they're clearly ahead of the smaller parties, which is why they're the smaller parties and they're the main ones. But it really does seem there's sort of I've forgotten what they call it in nautical terms. It's like a closing scissors where parties, or in this case planes, move in and out. There's a real swapping around between National and Labour and a relative consistency. But I don't know about you. This is a combined poll. Apologies to you, Tanya, and everyone. This is the Courier polls, RNZ polls, Talbot Mills. It's a bit of a blend. I mean, I don't quite understand why the Green Party's popped up. I don't know if you've got any insights on that.
I think it would go down if people watched Question Time every day. Truthfully, but all they see is the news, you see, and maybe that's why the narrative is still staying that way. But seriously, if you really want to get educated on who is in power or who is in government right now, who is in Parliament, watch Question Time between 2 and 3 and you'll get to really know who you should vote for. and who was there. Look, when I had a look at this graph earlier, I was checking each dot to see which particular poll it was, just to see what the trend was. And it you can see one poll is a bit different to another, whether it's corporate or whether it's a TV1 poll. So they were different, but they did tend to, they're all around the 1% variant and with the same polls. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to do, comparing apples with apples. So that I looked through that. But yeah, you're right. Then, well, I wonder what that's going to look like in 12 months' time or 18 months' time, whether, the top two are going to come down a bit or the bottom bunch are going to come up.
Personally, I think it's so variable. For me, it's a bit of what you said earlier. You don't worry about things unless you can make change. And actually, all the political parties, no matter who they are, have just shy of 18 months now to formulate their views and policies. So I think we'll see a bit of change. And I think too, people just need to hold their nerves. I've probably shared it before, but I've been through far too many political coups, not of my causing, Tanya, but sort of on the sidelines watching, and how many MPs get spooked by the polls. It's like someone mentioned earlier, it's the poll on the day. But I don't know, it's sort of segueing. Sorry, after you.
A week is a long time in politics. I remember hearing that when I first came in. It actually is. Anything can happen.
Oh, it most certainly can. I mean, segueing into this issue of inflation, one of the things I've often wondered about is, as I keep finding little buttons to press here, there's an element, the media I would argue, is constantly pouring cold water onto the coalition government. They're always trying to find reasons to throw bricks at them, and it doesn't mean there aren't some bricks that can be thrown, but part of me wonders whether a lot of this polling is driven by just negative day after day. But would you say it's not helped by actually the current economic conditions? Inflation has gone back up, not as high as expected, but it has gone up, which means everything's more expensive for us. I mean, surely, well, actually that's more of a statement. Do you think that's having a real impact on these poll and numbers?
Yeah, because if you go back and look at that 76%, people feel that something isn't changing. And if anything, we feel it's going in the wrong direction. So people are going to feel the pinch when they have to pay their rates bills, their electricity bills, their food bills. Do we choose whether to put shoes on our children's feet or do this? So that is why people are feeling flat. It's the money. The money is hurting, or the lack of it. And that is the emotion that people are feeling. So, of course, that's going to have an effect on how they feel about the government. So, you're talking about prices and things like that. I'm a numbers girl. I really know my prices when I go to the supermarket, and they are steadily going up. And I often wonder, how does someone feed a big family with these prices? So that is why people are feeling that pinch. That is why there's a bit of negativity out there. And maybe
I'm sitting here going, we have to put shoes on our kids' feet and feed them? I'm just gonna take some notes. No.
Yeah. I honestly, the stories I've heard of the way people are struggling. So that is real out there. And
it is. It is.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. This is the great thing of technology. Rather than being in the same room, I must say you are much better than I am. You're like my wife. I go into the supermarket and I'm not as good at calculating things. Rachel's got it down to the dollar. But I'll say, even as someone who's very flippant, for want of a better word, if I need to go and buy something, I'll buy it. Prices are such now that I'm noticing. So just at the supermarket today, getting some cheese, some butter, even some bread and milk, it's like, oh, good Lord. And yeah, the real stories of harm and struggle out there.
And I saw it today, actually. I'm a baker. I love to bake. All Croatian women bake, right? So, of course, we use a lot of butter, but I use a lot of dates. And the same packet of dates that I used to buy 6 months ago is 50% dearer. Why on earth would dates be 50% dearer? So this is where I'm going, okay, there's a lot of talk about holding supermarkets to account and doing stuff there. Let's see some action so that all of these other things that aren't mentioned on the news, like the butter, but all those other commodities, they're just skyrocketing. So something needs to be done. Let's have a little bit of action.
Well, speaking of that, then, I mean, butter seems to be the topic, the topic of the day. I happened to turn the news on last night, which is very rare for me, and it's all about the price of butter. It is crazy. I looked at it today, as I say. Rachel fortunately did the Costco run, so we're doing somewhat all right. I mean, there's been a lot of drama. My word here, Tony, but a lot of drama of Fonterra appearing before the Minister of Finance, and they're having discussions. But I mean, is there really anything the government can do?
I was really interested in your take on that, actually. Is there really anything that they can do, or is this just, a bit more noise? That's one of the things that, yeah.
Look, personally, I don't think they can. Don't get me wrong. I think it really hurts when you're paying $8, $9, $10. In fact, some places up to 11 for butter. It is nuts. But I think there isn't. Look, put it quite simply. I think a lot of it's posturing from politicians. For better or worse, and our viewers might disagree, and I see lots of comments coming through. But we run a market economy. We don't set prices like Muldoon used to do, and I would hope the coalition government's not thinking of nationalising the dairy industry. So I think it's just what you're seeing is a lot of political posturing. Because government, in my view, and feel free to comment on that, I don't think the government should be getting involved to try and regulate the price of butter, even though it's hurting us in the pocket.
Yeah. And, that's one of the things that I used to struggle with is there's actually nothing I can do. I'm an MP, but there's nothing I can do. I've just got to listen to the heartache and do what I can to console someone, but there's not a thing I can do. But look, it's not only butter. It's, like I said, it's the dates, it's bread, it's other basics, it's laundry powder. The other day I went to buy the laundry liquid and I thought, that's gone down, but actually the bottle's also 25% smaller. So it's just the cost of living is a lot higher, and I don't know how people are doing it.
I think that they're certainly struggling. As I say, even just some family, friends, people I bump into. Some people who still think I'm an MP, and I'll always listen to them, and you sort of have to listen patiently, and at the end go, by the way, I'm not in Parliament anymore. But it is tough. I suppose on the flip side, without taking away from individuals' pain, the farmers are happy. I mean, part of what's driving this butter cost is that our overseas markets are pretty much buying the lot. It's why milk's expensive. It's why lamb is expensive, because pretty much the overseas market will take the lot. And so we end up having to pay the international price. So the farmers are happy. But I heard Grant was ACT suggesting that this is all good for us, because with the farmers earning more, the economy will do better and we'll all be better off. I'm a bit cynical about that myself. I don't know what you think.
I am very cynical about that, because I'm still thinking about that low to middle income family who can't afford to pay their rates, clothe their children, give them decent lunches for school and things like that. So I think of those people. I think it's great for the farmers and all the other things, but it's the everyday New Zealander that's really struggling. That's what tears my heart out.
Interesting comment here. I'm not quite able to read the name, and apologise. It's quite small script on my screen, but it says, I agree if it was a free market, but they're saying Fonterra essentially makes it not a free market. And then others are commenting. I think Peter's talking about supermarket margins, and Edmund, if I've read that right, I need to get new glasses, is saying how much profit is enough. And I suppose these are sort of the final thought. These are sort of the challenges that we do face in the political realm of just when do you intervene and when do you not. And you mentioned the supermarkets. As I find the next screen, do you think there is space for a third supermarket chain, and can really government play any part in that?
I personally do, because nothing else is working, nothing else is bringing the figures down, the prices down. So yes, I do believe, look, Costco's got butter at, I don't know what the price is, but it's small, it's less, and you can get other things in bulk at Costco. So yeah, I do believe there is room for a third one, in my opinion.
Returning to butter, because I forgot I had this little video, a short little clip out of the House, as much for witticism, but for our respective comment. This is Chris Hipkins in Question Time questioning the Prime Minister.
The Honourable Chris, Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
So how many blocks of butter can he buy for the $60 a week he claims to spend on groceries?
Well, it's a smart-ass question, isn't it? But I'll just say to you, that member is supposed to be the leader of the opposition. And in opposition, you oppose, but you also propose. There's no proposals from that side.
I don't want to stand up in the middle of the Prime Minister's answers, but I would ask him to consider a number of rulings that have made in the House in recent days about answers.
So you've sat in the House. I mean, what do you make of an exchange like that? Not having to make it winners and losers, but how do you, what's your take on it, Tanya?
Are you referring to the language?
The language, obviously Hipkins trying to arguably a witticism, drawing on an earlier comment of Luxon that he only spends $60 a week, and obviously Luxon's response. I mean, I've got my thoughts, which I'll happily share, but you've got a take on it?
Oh, look, people will do anything for a really good social media clip, and I'm sure that's been used and shared. So there's a lot of theatrics, as you know, that goes on in Parliament, and that's probably some of it. The language, I think people can use bad language, or not, so that it's not that it was that bad, but people can use bad language to break a pattern or create a little bit of a startle. So maybe there's a little bit of that happening now, where people are slipping out the occasional word, and it makes people stand up and listen. And I've heard some people going, oh, great, it's good to see Luxon standing up and saying a few words like that. We're loving that. So it could be a bit of theatrics there.
I think so. My brief take on it is, you on the positive side for Chris Hipkins, he's got a formidable memory. He's remembering what Luxon said months and months ago and is able to bring it back in. On the flip side, gosh, what a waste of a question for just a cheap quip. But I think you're right. They know it's good for social media. Although, and we'll play another clip a little bit later, I'm a little bit concerned that Luxon's not responding strongly. Again, it's the smart ass comment and then deflecting, clearly being pulled up by the speaker. It's just, I don't know, a little bit worried. It's actually summed up by Dennis here, a good comment. New Zealand is stuck and it's not good enough. We need strong leadership and we should not accept mediocrity from our leaders. They need to grow up. And I see a lot more coming through. I'm beginning to get overwhelmed with all the comments, which is great.
We must be winding them up.
We are. Well, they haven't started with, our wonderful viewers haven't started debating too much with each other. That's always amusing. I know when they are, because it really explodes. Obviously, another issue that's been up this week, and there's so many issues, there's no shortage, is around the 500 police target, and that we're not reaching that. You were, again, part of the coalition government. This was one of the big promises. I mean, any insights of why this was proven to be so difficult?
Look, I was really surprised that it's proving to be so difficult, to be honest. I thought that it would be easily done, but clearly it's not. And I did listen to Mark Mitchell this morning on the radio saying that it is tougher than they thought. They're working as hard as they can, and that they have had to change some of the standards. So I don't know if that's got anything to do with the equation. Are people upping and leaving as well? So, what needs to happen in order for us to not only get more, but retain more?
I think one of the big challenges too, I know there's a lot of recruitment from Australia. In fact, a few of my friends who are police officers who have gone to Australia, they find, a better pay, sometimes harder. Some of them have gone to the Northern Territory. It's really challenging. But part of the story too, and it's in the headline, not so clear as it could be, but there's talk of trying to run campaigns to draw New Zealanders back. But it says me, Tanya, I think that's going to be quite a big challenge, the pay for police officers here. And by the way, this is across governments. This is not just a current government thing, but the pay isn't great. It's a very, very challenging environment. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Well, we've got people going to Australia anyway without the whole police part of the equation. So it is looking more attractive. So we need to do whatever we can to keep our people, keep everyone here.
Dennis is asking around the change of standards comment and was saying, do we mean, or did you reference lowering the bar? I think your point is actually they're trying to raise the bar back up, aren't they?
Yes. Sorry, that's what I meant. They are trying. There was a bit of inconsistency, I believe, in some of the standards, and now they have raised the bar back up again. So sorry if I didn't say that right.
Oh, no, I think it's good to clarify. There was vaguely. There's so much news these days. I don't know how God knows how I kept up in Parliament, let alone now when life's a little bit more gentle. But there was, I think it was swimming tests amongst other things that people
it was some form of physical activity. And I think you're right. It might have been the swimming, actually.
I'd be hopeless. I used to do triathlons when I was younger, and swimming was the first sport. I was so slow. I mean, I can swim, but I'm just not fast. You get caught in everyone's wash. So then in the cycling and the running, had to try and work extra hard. But those were days when I was a lot more brown hair and certainly a lot less on my belly. Speaking of police, do you still swim though? That's the question.
No, I really would love to, but I don't like the chlorine. I don't like my fingernails all of a sudden coming out and my hair smelling of the chlorine, but I love swimming. I used to swim in a swim squad, and it kept me aerobically fit. I'd love to do it, but it's the chlorine that puts me off now.
I have to say, as a complete tangent, people watching going, how on earth are we on to swimming? We have an iceberg club down the way at Coe Beach, and I normally try to go for my runs in the morning, and I absolutely admire these guys because every morning, even if it's freezing cold, out they go. And I recall, as an anecdote, and I think you might appreciate it, during COVID, the police tried to stop them. And the funniest thing for me, it was the same as surfing friends. I said, well, how did you... Because, they came and talked to me, and I was like, can you do anything about it? I mean, I tried to say to the police, bugger off, leave them alone. But they said, we just keep swimming. We just don't come in. The cops said, come in, and the guys just kept swimming.
Well, those guys can probably swim for miles too, you see. Just go around to the next bay or...
Oh, it's amazing. Hey, we're speaking of police, just a quick heads up to our viewers of this podcast. Alistair Rose actually has the New Zealand Bravery Star, and he set up something called the Blue Hope Foundation. And seeing that Tanya and I have just talked about the police, I just wanted to draw viewers' attention to this podcast. He supports cops with mental health issues, PTSD, and as heavy as the topic is, around suicide ideation. As I say, he's an amazing police officer. He was the one who shot Graham Burton, if anyone knows that name, and for what he did that day, including saving Graham's life. He got the New Zealand Bravery Star, which is just extraordinary. So can I just encourage, guys, you don't have to do it after this. It's online all the time. But Alistair's story is amazing, and the work of the Blue Hope Foundation supporting our cops is just totally incredible. Continuing our topics, the school curriculum. We're all over the place, Tanya, which is the story of my life. There's a lot of talk of developing a new curriculum in schools, one that is, they talk about being knowledge rich. Do you have any idea what they mean?
No, I don't. And I don't think they do either. And that's one of the issues. They haven't defined what knowledge rich means. So, I'm very outcome driven, results driven. And one of the things you always must do is define what is it that you want to achieve, really define it specifically. And if you don't do that, then you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're just going to see what sticks. Now, this is what this feels like for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried by it. Personally, I want to see the changes. I personally have always had serious concerns around the nature of our curriculum. Look, I'm not a teacher, I'm just an opinionated person, which is probably why I went into politics. And now I'm at Family First. Great place to have opinionated people. But I've just been struck of how many teachers having to constantly recreate the wheel. The current curriculum is designed in a way to allow every teacher to try and tailor lessons for every individual student. And what I observe as an outsider, and I suppose I've visited a lot of schools in my political time, is teachers spending hours and hours redesigning, say, a math curriculum, when actually you could just pick up a textbook. We don't have to recreate the wheel. And we also have so much student-led knowledge, which at one level, great if they're interested in X, Y, and Z, but actually hear about imparting knowledge. So my hope is when they talk about this new school curriculum, that knowledge rich means that we're drawing on the knowledge that we already have in society, the expertise, the textbooks that already have all the answers there, so that we can actually free up the teacher's time to help impart that knowledge.
Yeah, and also look at, what has worked in the past? Why don't we just go back and pick up some of those strategies? And I'm an old girl now. Back in my days, it was
never
reading.
admit that.
An oldie but a goodie, someone called me. Reading, writing, arithmetic. I think financial literacy is great. Home skills, domestic skills, metalwork, woodwork, all those things. I'm a real, let's go back to basics and do it really well before we try and get into the fluffy stuff.
Oh, look,
Call me
100% with you on that.
old-fashioned, but yeah.
No, I don't. Look, old-fashioned worked.
I
if
think
there's
so.
been, yeah. Well, look at even the nature of the classrooms. National, when I was in government, introduced these modern learning environments, these big barn warehouses of 60, 90 students and teachers, and it hasn't by and large worked. And so now they're going back to the traditional one teacher, one classroom, maximum I think 30 students. That the traditional works.
And that's one of the things that does my head. And I think I mentioned before, I don't like wasting time and I don't like wasting money. Fix the problems that are there. But if something isn't broken, then why try and reinvent the wheel? Is it political posturing, just saying, hey, we did this, but we're experimenting with young children here. We're experimenting with our future. So let's just continue to do what we know works and give them the best education and the basics that we can. And then when they're old enough or have more skills in some way, then they can venture out into some of those other more specialized areas. But like I say, I am old-fashioned, but I also really believe in perfecting what works instead of completely trying to change something and then realizing it doesn't work all those years down the track. And there's a lot of money that's gone down, and possibly some people's lives have gone in a different direction than they may have done.
I wonder then if you've got any thoughts around the NCAA, that's also coming under the gun. So this, new and inverted commas grading system. We've had it for a couple of decades now, but it seems that employers have no idea what it means. Students and teachers can game the system. I mean, is this just another example of a failed experiment? It's time to get back to, as you say, basics.
Go back to basics. And also, I feel that if there's a loophole in anything, people will find it and then they will use it. And what is happening, I hear, in NCEA is that if you can choose a subject that isn't too hard, then you can get your credits and then not have to sit at the end of the year, correct? So there's a bit of that going on. I remember having to study for my finals. I always had to study for finals. They were 3-hour exams in my day. And the discipline of having to do that set me up for life, even as a teenager. The discipline of having to study, the discipline of knowing there was a timeline, the discipline of being able to summarize everything that I'd learned in the year and then apply it in a 3-hour exam. I think those were great skills, and I feel that it's sad that they are gone. I do personally think that worked really well. And we did get UE accredited, didn't we? I don't remember if I had to sit. I don't think I had to sit an exam for that, but I'll bring back some of the good old days, I say, Simon.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I mean, for me, there is a wisdom in the past. It's what I think CK, good God, I'm losing it. C.K. Chesterton writes about the democracy of the dead, which is actually those in the past have something to offer into the future. We can learn. I mean, that's the root word of the word tradition. Traditio means to hand on. And I can't help but think in education and so many other areas these days, we just tend to, we have to try again. And there's almost an arrogance in that. It's like, hold on, math 10 years ago is the math of 100 years ago. Let's just pull those textbooks out.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I'm not too fussed on always having to use AI and things like that and fancy calculators. I'll always try and use my brain before I use a calculator. And I don't use AI to do stuff. I just want to keep using my brain. I know I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I'll have to start soon. But the more we can use this, I feel the better.
Oh, no, I'm with you. Often with my stepkids as well. It's like, yeah, of course you could take a calculator in, but are you really going to use a calculator in the supermarket? No. So I try to do it in your head, though their stepfather should probably try and learn from that and add things up.
Lead by example, Simon. Go on.
So speaking of families, terrible segue. This is one of the government's policies around the family boost, and they're getting it a little bit in the neck at the moment because only 153 families receive the full amount, but about 60,000 are receiving some form of money. I mean, for what you know of this family boost policy, I think it's around the cost of childcare. I mean, is this a successful policy? Is this an example of the media just having a crack because they can?
Well, yes, they can, because I think there was a different story at campaign time and election time, and the numbers aren't adding up to what people thought. So this is something that is tangible, that can be measurable. And also people are feeling it in the pocket. You know, they're not getting as much money as perhaps they thought they would. So they are feeling that pinch. So anything to do with money, people, I find, tend to remember more. It hurts a little bit more. So I do think that is one of the reasons why it's getting so much attention, because there was so much talk and hype about it to start with. I don't know if they got wrong advice at the beginning, if the numbers weren't quite right. But now there's been a bit of a tweak. The Minister of Finance has adjusted some of those scales. But anyone who's earning up to 230,000 can now claim this, which I feel is quite high. It is quite high. I don't know about you. I wouldn't have thought that was a family that was struggling. But I think... sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is it the average income's only about 50,000, I think, or 55. So someone earning 230. I mean, traditionally, if you earned over 180, that was seen as quite a lot. So I suppose what you're saying here for our viewers is that the wider the opportunity, if it's from $0 to 230, you're spreading things quite thin. If it was, say, 0 to 150,000, for example.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And I do believe that they have had thousands. I think it was something like 60,000 people have applied, but only a small number, I think it was the 153, have received it for 4 consecutive quarters that it's been available. So that's how that number 153 comes out. I do think one of the things that could be getting in the way of people applying for it is that it's a bit of a manual thing to have to do. You have to keep your receipts and then send them in. So there needs to be something automated, in order for that to work a bit more efficiently. So, there are good reasons. Yeah, it is a bit. And people who aren't that way inclined, who don't want to have to keep receipts, may go, oh, too bad. But so that's probably why there's a bit of a negative narrative around that. There's a few things there that make it a bit cumbersome to apply for. And also, not everyone's getting that full amount every quarter.
So the next couple of questions are going to be then related to a video I'm about to play, and it sort of links for me into a lot of what we've just discussed, everything from education to police, the price of butter, because the PM was interviewed on the tiles in Parliament a few days back, and he reacted, and then amongst others. So I'm interested in your take on his reaction. Is he feeling the heat or not, or is he just trying to connect? And he's also suggesting that the opposition party should start formulating their policy and talking about it. So after the video, I'd be interested in your take on both of those.
They put us in this mess. We're cleaning up their mess. And so I'm not taking any lectures from frickin' Chris Hipkins or the Labour Party on not supporting low and middle income working New Zealanders, because that's what this government's doing, because we care about working New Zealanders, and they're doing it tough, and we're doing everything we can to clean up the economy, get it on the right footing, as evidenced by the infrastructure projects, as evidenced by the free trade agreements that we're trying to do to get growth into New Zealand in a very difficult time.
I mean, look, I think they're getting really desperate. On a daily basis, they're attacking me and attacking the Labour Party rather than talking about their own track record in government. They're nearly 2 years in now. Surely they should be willing to defend their own policy.
So a couple of things there. Once again, we've got Luxon. He's fricking this time. He's not smart beeping. Because I saw someone telling me off, I think, in the chat using the word yes. But is he just trying to connect, or is he getting frustrated?
He actually looked frustrated in that video. He did look frustrated, but he also, to me, looked as though he didn't care that he said that word. So on that level, he's allowing himself to connect in another way. And there are some people out there who I have seen on social media going, oh, that's really great to see. So he has connected with some people who he may not have connected with. There is a big mess to clean up. So that's true. Once you go under the bonnet and see what's under the bonnet, you do see there's a bit of a mess. So it isn't going to happen overnight, the change. You do need to do some things before you can actually really start seeing results. But isn't it a typical narrative, though, that one government blames the other, and then when it swaps around, it's just the same thing? You blame each other every time. You probably know this more, Simon. It's just part of the narrative.
It's very look. It is part of the game. When you're a new government, you always blame the last ones. It's an absolute game. I suppose the question is, at what point does it tip? And that was one of my observations. I actually don't have an answer to it. Luxon's running hey, look, we're still trying to clean the mess up. Hipkins is saying, look, you've been in there almost 2 years, mate. Stop blaming us now. And I suppose my observation is that tipping point, that inflection point is coming, as in, for people, I think there's still enough out there, Tanya, going, this is still Jacinda and Robertson and Hipkins' fault. But I wonder, as we move into next year, people will say, yeah, okay, stop blaming the other guys.
Yeah, I do hear that. I do hear a lot of people saying, look, it's going to take a long time to clean this up and we need to give this lot another chance. You know what I think would work and probably would shock everyone is if they just owned it. Hey, just own the mess that you made and say, hey, really sorry, we'll do better next time. But no one seems to own stuff, do they? And maybe I'm just dreaming. Maybe I'm in La La Land, Simon. You'd know better. But I'd respect them more if they just owned it and then came up with other solutions. Yep, we didn't do so well then, but this is what we're going to do this time. Is it too early to start giving policy out? Probably is, but I think campaigning has already started. So they are just going to test the waters. They're going to test the public with their possible ideas, possible policies, and see what gets the most reactions.
I was grinning as you talked because, of course, for any political party or leader to admit a fault requires a politician to be honest, and there's a stereotype or a perception, isn't there, of politicians and honesty. But I tell you what, to our wonderful viewers and listeners, you have a wonderful and honest, great, hardworking person here in Tanya. The last observation, because I'm conscious we're getting towards 6 o'clock, I can completely understand why Luxon is goading the opposition to put out their policy, but for what it's worth, my experience having been in opposition, you never put your policies out too early. Certainly when you're in opposition, one, you don't quite know the state of the books, and two, if you put it out too early, the government with all its bureaucrats and Treasury advisors will find a way to nitpick and rip it to shreds. So to be fair on Chris Hipkins in this case, he'll want to keep any policy close to his chest. In fact, final thought is it's actually up to the government. This coalition government's the one that needs to be putting the policy there and forward.
Yes. And also, if he puts something forward that's really good, then the government might take it and do it themselves.
That's a look. I'm pleased you say that, because that was a discussion or discussions in caucus from time to time. It was like, we better not release this policy because Labour will nick it. Yes.
So there's a bit of that going on. But look, I do think that whilst everyone's probably a little bit in campaign mode, everyone will be throwing things out there. There'll be members' bills, a little bit of posturing here, and what reaction are we going to get from the public? What gets the most noise? Oh, this is something that's really concerning them. So, or they'll identify a problem that's there, or maybe even just create a little bit of a problem and agitate it and see, is the public really getting agitated by this, and is this going to be something that we can campaign on? Do you get my drift there? Find a problem and agitate it and see what people's responses are.
Which is very much the nature of politics, and that's why I'm so grateful you've been on the show. Hey, before I say a thank you and goodbye, because I'm, again, conscious we're coming to 6 o'clock, just a reminder to everyone that in pretty much a month's time, we have the Forum on the Family. That's from the 28th of August to the 29th. We start on the evening of Thursday and we go all through the Friday. An amazing lineup of speakers, including Israel and Maria Flower. That's going to be a pre-record. They're not able to make it in person, but we've got an amazing array of people. Can I encourage you all to come along because, well, you'll be able to meet a number of us in person, but you'll be able to meet like-minded people, and we've sold out every year. And a reminder too, through Family First, because of your generosity, we have no paywall, so you can watch these shows, you can read our articles online, you can even access what we do on Spotify. So head on over to the website. And so it really just remains for me to say a huge thank you to you, Tanya, for coming on tonight and replacing Bob. I said, Bob, if you're listening to this, whether you want to come back or not, there's options now, including for me. I might have just done myself out of a job. But no, Tanya, lovely to have you along. And I'm not going to be able to get to all the lovely comments coming through as we wrap up. But a lot of people saying thank you and wishing you well. So have a wonderful evening. And to all our viewers and listeners, look forward to talking to you again next week.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.